right, this morning I have a very interesting topic that has been assigned to me. And, it's not going to be a preaching. It's going to be a family discussion. Because I want us to be able to think about this. Imagine, how you have a family meeting and everyone is sitting around the living room, in the warmth of your living room, and you're just, hearing either from the parent or the head of the family, and they're telling you what they want to see in the home, right? That's the kind of conversation we're going to have this morning. I just want to say that in our world today, we have very many different perceptions about the church. If I ask you what the church is, you will probably all give me very different answers. Some of you will say, well, it's a place of worship. You say the church is a building where people worship. Some of you might say, the church is people. Those of you who are very progressive, you will say the church is beyond the walls, right? You give me very nice and fantastic answers. Many of us have something, either through your own personal experience or the things you've seen on the media or the things you've heard about churches. You have a perception of church. But not every one of us has perception of church as our home. It's not necessarily the word that we associate with church anymore, home. Church is religious leaders. It's choir. It's the word of God. Sometimes church is not necessarily anything good. For those who have experienced church hurt or church trauma, the church building could have been a place of abuse. It could have been a place of threats. It could have been a place where people made you feel like less of yourself, treated you like you did not matter, treated you like you were only good enough for what you could do or what you could bring. Sometimes church was a place where only your money mattered, not you. You didn't have a voice. You didn't have a place. You were not welcome. And this is the reason why a lot of people have moved away from the church. Some of us still hold on to our faith, but we don't see the church as a place where we feel invited. It doesn't necessarily hold the same warmth and comfort of a home like we would expect it to be. But church is more than just where you go to once a week. It's more than just where you come to see the choir minister and you sing songs or you sit down for a sermon. Church is more than all that. And back in the early days of the Bible, the Old Testament, and before we start using the word church, the places that were used as places of worship were called the temple. The temple was a place where people went to find God. That was where they went to table their complaints to the priest. That was where they went to get prayers for healing or whatever was going on. And Jesus realized that there was something going on in the church or in the temple that was not supposed to be happening. And so what he did was very interesting. In the book of John, and actually this story is all through the 4 Gospels. I'm not going to go through every single part of the 4 Gospels where it was recorded, but it's known in the Bible as the cleansing of the temple. After Jesus made his triumphant entry into Jerusalem, he knew his time was coming and he knew he was going to die soon. But after his triumphant entry into Jerusalem, he went into the temple like he would. He's been going to the temple since he was a kid. But he went into the temple, and instead of seeing a place of worship, a sanctuary, a place of holiness, a sacred place, instead he saw people buying and selling. He saw people exploiting other people by putting huge exorbitant prices on things that should be cheaper. He saw a people distracted. People who were more for their profit than for fellowship. People were not there to help each other out. No, they were there to exploit each other. They were there to take advantage of people. And this was very upsetting for Jesus. And the book of John, I'll be reading from Matthew. I'll read the Matthew's version. Jesus was so upset that this was the one place in the Bible we saw Jesus being angry. He expressed his anger by flipping tables. The tables of the money changers, the tables of the people who were buying and selling. And he drove them out. And he said, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you made it a den of robbers." Matthew 21, verse 13. Matthew 21, verse 13, Jesus said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of robbers." Now, there have been different theologians who have talked about why was Jesus upset? What was the big deal? The temple was a central place. A lot of people went there for different things. So why was he upset? Why did this even spark such a reaction from Jesus? Because guess what? The church is not a building. It is a home. Would you like to go into your house and find that somebody you did not invite in there went in there and turned your house into a place of buying and selling, where people could just come in and go out as they wanted, and they were just taking things from your cabinet and living with it? Would you love it if you left your home and then you came back into your house? The place was basically destroyed, littered. Imagine a teenage kid from the neighborhood realized you're out of town, broke into your house and threw a party in your home. And then you come back and you see glasses of beer on the floor. Please, is your reaction going to be nice? Are you going to be kind and be very holy and sanctified where you come into your house and you see that some people you did not know come into your home and tore it apart? We will probably all have the same reaction Jesus did. In fact, you'll be grateful that people are not there because you might commit a crime and end up in prison. Because for everybody, a home is not just the house. It's not the structure. It's the effort that you've put into it to make it comfortable for you. Some of us even go to extremes. Interior design is like top-notch, everything color-coded, color matching. You want to come into your house, the fragrance of the place. You open the door, it's like, ooh, that's home. You had a very busy day, and you just want to walk into your sanctuary. That's what home, it's not the house. Even if you were living in an apartment, you could go into 5 apartments and they're all different. Everyone has put their own stamp and their own statement that this is my space. You see photos. And those who don't have photos, you will see maybe paintings or whatever it is that makes the place feel warm and feel comfortable. So, of course, the expectation for someone who believes that the temple or the house of God should look a certain way, the expectation that Jesus had was shattered. Because after all of that, he's taught in the temple, he's gone about different places teaching the word of God, and to now go into the temple and find some people just do whatever they want to do in the space with no respect for the sanctity of the space, that's going to get anyone upset. So, reasons why Jesus was upset. The first one was that the temple had been desecrated. It was meant to be a house of prayer. It was supposed to be a place where people could go and connect with God, but they had turned it into a marketplace, and the sanctity of the place had become violated. And then church or the temple had become a place of exploitation. Sometimes you see all these clips now on social media of what some churches have become. You would be confused whether you're in an auction house or you're in a church, in some cases. It's the highest bidder, right? Some places it's more about the exploitation of people. Jesus was upset because money was often more primary and was the focus of a lot of churches. Another thing was access to worship. There are some of you now that if you walked in here and this place was not clean, it was all over the place, there was so much disruption. It doesn't matter how great the worship team sounds. It doesn't matter how good this message is. If every 2 seconds the audio speaker is like, boo, like, that's distracting. You're not going to be able to fully access the experience of worship in the space. If you came in here and half of the chairs, they are like 3-legged, or you have to rest them on the wall, or you come in here and there's such a poignant smell from the bathroom, you'll probably turn back and go home, okay? Let's be real. You will not stay. Even if you tried in your holiness to stay, your mind is not going to be here. You may be here physically, but there's just too much distracting. And that was what upset Jesus, because all of the buying and selling was restricting access to worship. It was getting in the way of people's ability to fully experience worship. And that was what upset him. And number 4, why was Jesus upset? He had a sense of righteous indignation. The sense of ownership Jesus had for the temple made it impossible for him to see that and ignore it. You know, it's like the same way you would feel if your favorite sports team was being talked about wrongly. People have fought over Arsenal, Manchester, and all these things. I mean, like, people have almost come to blows over these things, right? That's the indignation they feel like, how dare you? They don't know these players, they've only seen them on TV. But you know that possessiveness, that ownership, like, that's my team. You want to rep them everywhere. That was the same feeling Jesus had. Like, this is my space. How dare you? How could you come into the house of God, into a place of worship, and treat it like nothing? That's the reaction. That's the sense of ownership that Jesus had. And that's the sense of ownership that Jesus wants every one of us here to have about our home. So today I'm going to attempt to try to move you from the idea of church just being a building, or just being about the people, or just being about worship, or seeing church as your home. Now, when the purpose of a thing is not defined, when you don't understand the reason why something exists, abuse is inevitable. And maybe that's the problem with the church now. Many of us have lost sight of what the church means. And it's no wonder that younger people and younger generations don't want to come to church. Because even the adults don't know what church is. We say we know, but our attitude and our behavior kind of puts it as, do you or do you not know? If the purpose of a thing is not defined, abuse is inevitable. This is not the reason why you see a lot of abuse in the church, a lot of people bringing their weaknesses into the space, is because they don't understand what comes to bear in the church and why God has ordained a space for his children to feel at home. So why is church a home? What's God's design for the church? Number 1, the church is a family. The church is about relationships. Your relationship with God and your relationship with people. The church is not just these four walls. It's about relationships. The church is a place where friends become family and family becomes friends. We're not just saying this because we want to sound very, modern day churchy. No. There used to be a time in our community and in society where when people were looking for community, where people were looking for a place to be accepted and loved, where did they go to? The churches. When there was a storm or a natural disaster, who opens their doors to shelter people from the storm? The church. There are many communities now that if you go in there, you will immediately know where the church is. Why? It's the tallest building. There's a bell ringing. If anything is going on in that community, people know exactly where the church is. Because it's like a lighthouse in the middle of a storm. So, but would you want to go into a place that doesn't feel like family? And like any family, there's a mother, there's a father, and there are children. Even here within Modelcitychurch, when God called Pastor Jide and I to be pastors of this church, He chose us in a way as spiritual parents, right? Every time we come here on Sunday, there's feeding going on. The Word of God is being fed to nurture, to help you grow. So like any family, there is a structure. There's spiritual parents. And on our part, we have the responsibility to ensure that everyone within the church is taken care of. It doesn't matter how many children. We're all children of God, first of all, right? And as children of God, God has equipped all of us to take care of each other. Because in a home, it's not just the parents that take care of the children. The siblings take care of each other, right? Everybody takes care of each other. That's how you can have a home where there's love. Imagine if you went into a home and everybody's fighting each other. There's strife, there's contention, there's malice, there's fights, broken bottles, broken everything. That's not a home. That is so distracting. So here in the church, not only do we have a structure, but we also have a way for us to be able to keep each other accountable as a family. That's what the church is about. In the book of Ephesians 2, verse 19, Ephesians 2, verse 19, Paul reminds us, he says, "So you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God." And I know he was speaking to the Ephesians because many of them were just coming into the faith. And they did not really understand their place within the church. So he was trying to help them understand that you're no longer aliens. You're not visitors. You're not strangers. But now you are a part of this household. The household of God. The only way you will be treated like a stranger is to keep acting like you are. If you go into a place and they say, "Oh, feel at home, feel welcome, this is your space." I mean, maybe the first time or the second time it might be difficult. But after some time, when you've come regularly, the expectation is you start to feel like one. If you're not feeling it, then it means your host has not done a good job of making you feel at home. And as a family, we want to make everyone feel welcome, not make them feel like strangers or aliens, because we are united in one thing, and that's our faith in Christ. that unity, it transcends culture. It transcends race. It transcends gender or background. Nobody here is going to put you in a different category because you look different. Nobody here is going to treat you different because you speak a different language. No. The church is supposed to be a place where friends become family and family become friends. So you could start out as friends, but eventually move to the place of being family. That's God's design and God's desire for us. And number 2, the church is a place of belonging. The church is a place of belonging. One of the deepest desires of man is to belong. Most of us are searching every day for a place to fit in. FOMO is real. Nobody wants to miss out. In fact, if you find out that there's a side conversation between your friends and they didn't include you in the group chat, you're going to be offended, right? Because like, what? Is that how y'all see me? Whatever you're saying is so you don't even know whether they are planning a surprise for you, but the fact that you were not part of the conversation makes you feel left out. That's human nature. Or they send an email to everybody at work and you realize your email it doesn't matter that it was a mistake. Your own email was not there. Oh my God, they are plotting against me. They want to fire me. What? What did I do? Then you're like, oh my God. Because we have a deep desire to belong. I don't care if you're an introvert or you're someone that says, oh, I don't like people around me. Guess what? You still like to be included. Even if your answer is going to be no. The fact that you got that invitation tells you, okay, somebody's thinking about me. Somebody cares somewhere. That's human nature. So when we come to a place of worship like the church, we want to feel like we belong. You don't want to be there and everybody's talking in their cliques and their units and it's like 2, 3, 4. Like everybody's clustered and nobody's saying hello to you. No smile, no warmth. Even if you don't know me, at least say hello, right? I've been to churches before and I'm like, I'm not coming there. Because even the people who were supposed to be hosting were not hosting. Even their faces, it feels like somebody forced them to be saying hello. And I don't know about you, but would you go back to that church? Even if you don't know me, at least try. And make it genuine too. I don't have to be able to tell that it's fake. Right? So we want to belong because the church is a place of belonging. And when we talk about the younger generation, because this is our generation series, traditionally before now, the model of the church has always been that you have to believe. You have to share our faith before you feel welcome. So the traditional model was believe, become, then you belong. So I have to see you as a Christian. I have to see you share my faith. I want you to see if you are prayerful. If your behavior matches your faith, then I can accept you. But that's not going to work with this generation or beyond. It's not even working with our generation, okay? So if it's not working with us, millennials, boomers, Gen X, anything before, it's not going to work for alphas or Gen Zs. Because that model is so reverse to what Jesus taught. What Jesus taught was you belong first. That's why when he was choosing his disciples, he didn't go for the best. He didn't go for the ones who were in the temple and who looked holy and sanctified. He went for the tax collector, the person that was a sinner, that nobody wanted to have anything to do with. He went for the desolate and downtrodden. Jesus did not go for the people who looked like him. And that was why The Pharisees couldn't stand him because he was doing the reverse. What Jesus did was to make you belong first. He made you feel like you are important and you are valuable. When people wanted to stone the woman who was the prostitute, what did Jesus say? He said, anyone here who is without sin. But is the church not a place of judgment now? You have to look a certain way, dress a certain way, look holy and sanctified. In fact, when you walk through the doors, your hair has to be wrapped, your earring and jewelry gone. You have to wear a skirt that is like ankle length. There's all these rules. Meaning you have to come in right. You can't come in with any work to be done. Make our work easy for us. Come as a Christian. Save us the stress. All we're just going to do is just keep you in that Christian line. That's all we want to do. Don't ask us to do any transformation. Don't ask us to do any reformation or change of behavior. This is not behavior modification, okay? We just want you good. And then we'll continue to work our way to heaven from there. That's it. As pastors, we sleep better at night when we know everybody in our church is a Christian. Yeah. Okay? That's not the Jesus model. And that's not going to work with the next generation. Many of them are going to come flawed. Many of them are going to come not looking like us. I remember somebody one day came to our church, and she was so shocked. She's like, is this a Sunday service? I was like, yes. She was like, you're wearing a shirt and jeans. I said, yes. She's like, wow, this is a shirt and jeans church? If you want to call it that. Because we want you to come as you are. Guess what? When you come here, if there's any change that needs to happen, it will happen here. We are here modeling the work and character of Christ. You don't model to something that is already modeled. You can't change something that is already changed. So what are we modeling for? If we expect you to already be modeled, to be the model of Christ and everything. No, that's not what. So the church is a place of belonging. Please, if you see a young person coming into church and they don't look like the way you think they should look, your first response shouldn't be like, why are you dressed like that? Can't you greet? Didn't you see me? I mean, if someone did that to you, you're not going to like it. Because they're younger doesn't mean that we should do that, right? The church has to be a place of belonging. And in belonging and feeling loved and accepted for who they are, people become. They start to look around and be like, oh, wow, I'm the only one here that's different. Without you even saying anything. You might just notice the next time they come to church, they wear a shirt and button it up. But if our first reaction when they come in is we see a tattoo and we're like, there's them. There's us. Wow. Really? A nose ring? You've already crossed them off the redemption list. But that's not Jesus' model. Church will not feel like home if we did that. I mean, how many of you put on airs in your own house? Most of us, we go to our most basic self when our doors are closed, right? The one you put outside is makeup and everything. But when you're at home, I don't want to see it, but when we're home, we know. We go down to our most comfortable self. So church needs to be a place that feels comfortable. Not that our standards or our faith is diminished, but we have to walk with people, help them belong. Then they believe in our faith. Don't preach to me if I can tell you're being pretentious about it. Jesus loved first before he preached. He fed people first before he preached. That's the model of church as a place of belonging. Also, place the church as a sanctuary. A sanctuary is a place of refuge. It's a place of safety. That's what the word sanctuary means. And David was someone that understood this word more than anybody else. A lot of Psalms talked about God being he talked about the house of the Lord. He talked about running to the place of refuge. He always talked about coming to God to seek help in his time of need. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it, and they are saved. David understood the house of God as a sanctuary. And in Psalm 27, verse 4, David declared in there, he said, "One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple." He said, I desire to spend the rest of my life in the house of God. His desire was from a place of understanding, that this was the place where he could find peace in the midst of the storm, where he could find and encounter God's presence, no matter what was going on. And he knew he could be refreshed and renewed when he came into the house of God. So the church is a sanctuary. It's not just a place that we come to worship, but it's a place where we come to be refreshed. So when we talk about generations, we have to think about that. The world is going to chase these kids in. The world has taught you that there's nowhere that is safe. Is there anywhere in America that is safe right now? School? Mall? Movie theater? School bus? Nowhere. Even your neighborhood. And we keep moving too, just to find that safe space. And then the next thing you hear, pow. Oh my God, that's it. There's no safety anywhere. But there's safety in the house of God. It's a place of refuge. I've seen images of storms destroying cities, and you just see this lone church stand. And I wonder, how? Because God protects his own. And his house, nobody can take from him. So the church is a sanctuary. When the trials of life feel overwhelming, the church needs to be a place where we find comfort and hope, and where we can be reminded of God's faithfulness. And lastly, what's God's design for the church? The church as a home is a place of mission. A place of mission. We all have questions about purpose. Why are we here for? Why do we exist? What am I on this earth for? And the church is not just a place for us to gather, but it's a place for us to be sent out. It's a place for us to what? Be sent out. The church is our control tower. That when we're trying to navigate different aspects of our lives, and we want to get clear instructions about where we're going, whether it's safe to land, whether it's safe to keep going, whether this is the place to go or not to go, the church is that launching pad. And for many of us, those who found our faith really early in our lives, you can tell even now as a professional, as an adult, that many times when you lost your way, sometimes all you had to do is come for one service. And then the sermon that Sunday was like speaking right to you. And you're like, that's the answer I was looking for. This is exactly what I needed to know the next step that I need to go. Because that's what the church is. And when church is your home, you're not afraid to come back to recalibrate, to find your way back. When you feel like your compass is completely skewed. And you know what messes that up? When we neglect the fellowship of believers. When we go on about our lives like nothing happens, like the church isn't there. That's when we lose our way. And everything starts getting dark. And everything starts getting confusing. And everybody around you starts looking like the enemy. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. My work had been going really well. All of a sudden, no, things aren't going well. You neglected something. Because your place of refuge is also your launching pad. It's your place of mission. It's a place that gives you purpose and gives you a reason to keep going. And so what we do here at Model City Church is so intentional. Everything we do here at Model City Church is to ensure that we do not detract from making this place a home for you. We've been intentional as a church in ensuring that our kids never feel left behind. Because a lot of times in church, all the programming and everything is focused to the adults. But then the kids are like, afterthought. But that's not the case here. And for everyone here, I want to challenge you. Like the tale of two kings we heard 2 weeks ago. Are you going to be Hezekiah? Or are you going to be Josiah? Because sometimes with the older generation, we are so focused on what we are doing or the business of life that we forget to look around and see the people who need our help. If we call church our home, then use the resources you have. Some of you have access to jobs. Yet there are people in church looking for work. If you don't know who to share it with the pastors. Maybe you know some resource, government aid, that could help somebody in need because you have access to that information through your job. Share it with the church. That's how we hold each other up and we foster relationship. And discipleship is also another big part of a family. We can't watch younger people or families or individuals go astray. We're going to talk more about discipleship in the coming weeks, but I want you to understand that as a church, you have to be able to get to the point where you see everybody around you as part of your family. If there's something they need to grow in, don't condemn it. Help them grow. So what can we do today? What am I challenging you for today? Take ownership of this space. Take ownership of Model City Church as your home. Don't treat church like you're a visitor. If you see something out of place, put it back in place. Ownership says you stay behind sometimes and say, what can I help with? Because the comfort that you experience here in church didn't happen because angels came overnight to clean the space. It was people that made it happen. So even as a person, ask yourself, what have you invested into this church to make it feel like a home? Take ownership, number one. Number two, fight for your home. If someone was trying to break into your home, would you let the person in? If someone was talking disparaging about your parents' house, would you allow them to say whatever they want to say and get away with it? Yes, some of us will sit in gatherings and allow people to talk trash about your church and you're comfortable. In fact, sometimes you join them. And you're also adding your own 2 cents. Yeah, that's how that person also did that and did that. Protect your family. Protect your family. We're a community and there needs to be oneness. That's what makes us a home. That's what makes this family. And finally, sacrifice. When we use the word sacrifice, people don't like hearing that word. But if the bad does not bother you, the good has no value to you. If you're not willing to inconvenience yourself for the sake of your home, then I don't think you should be able to say that you're getting anything from here. It's hypocrisy for you to enjoy the benefits but not want to sacrifice anything to allow other people to enjoy that benefit. So when we talk about sacrifice, it's time, it's energy, it's money, it's effort. We we've made church optional. That's why a lot of our kids and the society sees church as optional. Church is a place of convenience. Oh, I can't wake up this morning. It was a tough week. That's wonderful. I totally understand you. However, if you have an 8 o'clock meeting at work, it don't matter how you feel. Whether you slept at 2 a.m. or you slept at 4 a.m., you will wake up for that meeting. Yet when it comes to church, I want to sleep in. I'd rather watch online. It's convenient. I don't blame you. However, you want God to put you as a priority. The hypocrisy of it is where we have to move away from. There's no reward without sacrifice. There's a popular saying, no pain, no gain, right? When we have to go to the gym and we have to be fit and everything, we go through the pain. But come and worship God and be with family is inconvenient. How can you call that your home if that's the attitude you have to it? And sometimes it tells me how you take care of your own home. You can tell me I'm not right, or you say, oh, my house is spotless. My house is clean. Your house is spotless, but you walked by trash in church and you were comfortable. I'm judging you in that one because I'm questioning if that's how you treat your own house. Because God wants more from us. And we can give more to make this place a sanctuary for people. From this place, we stream online to many different places. We have church members who are not in this state. And some of them, the comfort they have is in knowing that there are people praying for them. There's a church of people who want to support them. We stayed as an online church, right? If we could have stayed that way, but we don't want to neglect the fellowship of each other and the connections and the authentic relationships and discipleship and growth that we can get from being in the house of the God, Lord. So this morning, I want to challenge you. I want you to reflect and ask yourself, have you taken ownership for your house? Have you taken ownership for the church of God? Are you willing to fight and protect this church? And are you willing to sacrifice? Let's rise up on our feet.